Fresh is the word.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. And the guests for this episode are members of the Finnish Melodic death doom metal band Mariana's Rest, Vocalist Jaakko and Guitarist Nico. As they are still trying to find their sound, they feel like they are finally at that point with their newest album, Fata Morgana, out now via Napalm Records. This album, which takes a journey into the realms of isolation, took on a new meaning as the band and the whole world went into quarantine as a global pandemic spread. During our conversation, we talked about the making of Fata Morgana and how this album represents a monumental landmark creatively for the band, along with diving into the culture of their homeland, Finland, and much, much more. So, after a brief word from our sponsor, we'll get into this interview with Jaakko and Nico of the band Mariana's Rest. Before we start this podcast, I want to definitely remind you of a sponsor for Fresh is the Word, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, bleeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. In the world of wrestling where there's hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all the tees in-house. So if you'd like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or even Zubaz, then drop them a line at 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20x, the number 20apparel.com. And also check out their enamel pin line. It's super cool. All right, welcome back. And like always, we have the freshest guests for you. And joining me for this episode is Jaakko and Nico from the Finnish melodic death metal band Mariana's Rest. They have a new album out. It's called Fata Morgana. Yo, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Thanks, man. We are not feeling so fresh this moment. Still going through rough times from the last weekend, and it's Thursday now. So,
man, hey, you don't always got to be fresh, man. You got to try hard to be fresh, but if you're not fresh, it's fresh to say that you're not fresh. It's okay to not be okay. Yo, Nico, I love the Yo, Nico, I love the dad joke battle that you had with dude from Wolfheart. That was like awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't done anything like that before, but actually it was Tuomas' idea. He talked us into it. Glad he did. We have kind of been building up this huge pile of crappy dad jokes over the years, and we just had to have some sort of ventilation system for all that crap. So yeah, that was our chance. But who won? What do you think?
Man, it was close, man. It was neck and neck. But the other dude had a couple ones at the end that was like... I forget which ones, but he had some ones that really hit me. I was like, oh, dude. but it's fun. I laughed at all of them, man. Like, I don't know what that says about me, but I laughed at all of them.
Yeah, actually, the battle is still going on.
I bet it is. All right, you guys have a new album out. And I was checking, online. You had that, the first part of the making of, where you're talking with your producer. Like, how did you feel going into this album? Because I felt like, the last album, like you guys are saying, there were some hiccups here and there, but this album kind of went through, seemed a lot easier going through. What do you feel like you did better on this album, and why?
I think the biggest difference to the previous albums was that when we started writing songs, I think all of us had a bit more confidence in what we were doing, and we were able to just let the music run its course, or go wherever it wants to go, and not try to force it into being, death metal or black metal or whatever. It is what it is. So I think that is the biggest difference.
Yeah, it was more streamlined.
Yeah,
we we had more faith. I think songs were a bit better, so we didn't have to kind of figure it out as much as we did on previous albums. And of course, we have known each other for years, but every day you learn something new, and it helps. This sort of stuff helps when you are in studio. You know what the other guy is thinking. He knows what we are aiming at, and that sort of stuff. So it gets easier album by album.
What was something new that you figured out about each other, and like what how did that improve the just the writing and recording process?
Well, maybe we just know better what we can do, what we shouldn't do. On the last album, we learned that it's okay to kind of let Nico do a 4-minute solo on guitar, and at this record, well, you did 2 solos. Only one of them got on the record. But it's these little things. It's hard to kind of pinpoint what it is. But I'd say we know each other very much better than we used to on Ruin's album. And we had kind of our lives. We are on a hectic phase in our lives. Everything happens. We have kind of careers. We have families. All that sort of stuff. So everything happens fast. On Ruins, we were all in a pretty bad place. We had rough patch, and that kind of maybe that built us together. We got over it together and made a badass metal album on the side, and now we just kind of were a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
How long did it take for this band to just sort of get comfortable as a band? Was it on this album that you felt like you figured out who you guys were? How long did that sort of process take?
Yeah, well, probably it was this album. I think on the previous 2, we were kind of blindfolded, shooting in the dark kind of stuff, and just try and figure out what works for us and what doesn't. And I think it was a conscious thing that just try to, push the boundaries a bit, see what is too far and what is not. So yeah, I think this album was it. We found our kind of goal, or our path,
our place. Yeah, and it took almost 10 years to do that, and but we had to make those 2 albums to get here. So it kind of we had to shoot in the dark to find a way. That's just how it goes. At least for us, we are not that good.
Right. There's so many like flavors, so many subgenres of metal, especially out in Europe. But I feel like over the years, a lot of it's like sort of blending in, and bands are no longer like being sticklers of staying in those boxes of whatever. It's like black metal, death metal, whatever. There's a lot more this like avant-garde sound getting into metal, especially out in Europe these days. Like, what goes into like what sounds like make it into this band, when you're recording an album?
That's a difficult question. Whatever sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we try not to keep anything out just because it's this or that. It's all about the kind of building the mood.
Yeah. I think the core idea is to have the bass sound and drum sound and all that needs to be big, and then you need to have something organic, which usually comes from the guitars and vocals, and then just a little bit of Parmesan on the top with the keyboards to make it, sound contemporary and this. No, it's something like that.
Yeah, but we don't when we do stuff, we don't think if it's doom, if it's post, if it's a black metal, if it's death metal. It's whatever works, we'll use it. And I think some people don't like that sort of stuff. But well, we listen to a lot of different type of music, and we can't be we don't know how to be true to some genre or some subgenre. If it's good music, then it's good music, and that's kind of enough.
Yeah.
How does it make y'all feel when you realize this is like something is good for the song, good for the record? And how do you make those like tough decisions? And what sort of input did your producer bring into that?
Our producer is he's our guiding light in the dark. Yeah. We do a lot of crap.
It sounded like that, like through on the making of video. He just like when they ask you like, oh, you get presented all these demos and everything. He's like, there's some good ideas. I'm like, yo, this guy tells it how it is, bro.
Yeah. But that's why we love him. You can, throw shovels of shit at him, and he'll pick up the little gold nuggets from that shit.
Yeah, he doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of rough to hear how crappy your new song is, and you're all hyped up about it on the training grounds, and then Teemu comes along and says that, boys, this really doesn't work.
Yeah.
Back to drawing board.
Yeah, but I think it works both ways. I mean, sometimes when we're in the studio, he might throw some ideas that I think for us band members, they just don't sound right. So we can also say to him that, well, this is not going to work.
We have a aim, and that makes it a whole lot easier. It doesn't have to be a slightly different goal, and it would fuck up the whole thing. We have to have exactly the same view of things. What this band should sound like.
Yeah. And I think because the writing process in our band is very democratic, so
okay,
those big conflicts on what we should do, what we shouldn't do on certain songs, they don't exist because they have been we have gone through with them on the very early stages of recording. So
yeah, along with that, and what you were speaking earlier about the do's and don'ts of what you've learned about making music and whatnot. What really struck me on this record was, take a song like The Wait, which is almost 10 minutes long. I was listening to it, and like there's a common sort of theme throughout it, but it didn't seem like a 10-minute song. It sounded like maybe there was a couple songs there, and I was like, oh, this is still going, but it doesn't drone on for 10 minutes, How do you sort of like make these longer tracks but make them fresh, so it's not like you're listening to a song forever?
Well, it's not easy. I remember when we were going over The Wait, and we were not sure if we can kind of pull it off on that track. If we could you just have to kind of add layers. You have the core of it has to be so good that it works on its own. So you don't have to kind of put everything on the beginning of the song. You just put a little bit and then build on, and in the end it's all guns blazing and eagles flying and napalm shooting everywhere and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's maybe that's one of the things that your instinct kind of you just know when. But on the way, I think we were not sure until we made it to studio.
Yeah. And I think always when you make these long songs and you tend to think millions of things that you can put on top of the, like for example in that song, it's a simple chord progression. It's a simple guitar part and very, very simple stuff. So it's easy to get lost and you start jamming it up with all sorts of stuff. So you have to be very clear on whether something you do brings extra value to the song or it doesn't. But I think that also is a case of trial and error, just trying out what works and what doesn't. And I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, throughout this new album, you know, another thing that really stuck out is that just throughout it, like you hear those riffs that are they're very catchy. Like they kind of stick out. They kind of like, you know, tap you on the shoulder and being like, yo, listen to me right now. But how do you feel when like a riff is really just hitting? Like, yo, we got it. This riff is going to be killer. People are going to like this, you know. What sort of, you know, feeling, you know, goes through the band when you just, you know, nail it?
I don't know. I see this ice cold blue color, then I know it's gonna be okay.
Synesthesia.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not probably as the definition, but something like that.
Yeah. It's a funny feeling. You just your skin starts to crawl, and you just know that this is going to be good. But it's hard to kind of pinpoint what makes a good riff and what does not. And it has to be in the right context also. Yeah. A good riff in a wrong place just doesn't work. It has to be in the right place. We just kind of mix the songs up. We reassemble them, take parts out, and kind of do all sorts of. We are not very we don't fall in love with our own things. We just kind of tear them down and build them up again.
In regards to that, you know, the music that you do is, you know, it's slow. It builds up. You know, you start with, you know, something. You're just adding layers throughout the songs and the album. When it comes to the sequencing of the songs and then the sequencing of the album, you know, what do you want to achieve?
We want to have kind of every single song has to have this dramaturgic arch on it, but you have to also have a longer arch on the whole record, and that's when you come to the what type of songs end up on the album. A good song might not end on the album because it just doesn't fit the overall arch, and then you have to kind of, for example, when writing the story, you have to know in a early stage on where this song is going to end up on the album, on the beginning, on the end, in the middle. It's not easy since when you kind of like build some sort of concept, you are kind of shackled to it to the end. But on this one, we tried different things when kind of the song order and that sort of stuff. I think we had probably 5 to 10 different versions. The middle song, the Horrox, and the shorter song, it was on the beginning on one of the versions, but this I think this was the right way to go. Yeah.
How do you guys not fall in love with your ideas and whatnot to be able to rearrange them the way that you do?
I think that has a lot to do with the fact that we kind of release our early ideas to the whole group very, very early on, so you don't get stuck with them. I think the very first demos are just maybe a part of a riff or just a part of a chorus or something like that, and then we start figuring it out in a group. So nobody has taken too much time with that single demo or something. So you don't feel like you have lost 20 or 50 hours on something that the other guys just won't want to do.
Yeah, nobody gets to kind of polish the songs in his own private chambers before presenting it to others. I think that's the key element. Nobody gets to kind of polish the songs in his own secluded place. We just kind of bring them out in the open, and it feels like they are all our band songs. They are nobody's songs. I don't can remember who made the first riff to what demo, and we don't even remember ourselves. They're just our songs.
Yeah. Does everybody bring something to the table in those beginning stages?
Yeah.
Everybody brings something. Everybody gets to say their own word to each of the songs. If there's kind of everybody has a chance to veto if something just sucks so much balls that he can handle it, then we won't do it.
Yeah,
but that's a rare occasion, I think.
Was there, how is it doing this album during this pandemic? Was there anything you were forced to do that actually turned out to be sort of a blessing in disguise?
Well, actually doing the album, we had a bit of luck because the album was written before the pandemic hit Finland, and the studio was booked so that the first wave had passed and the lockdowns had been lifted, so we were able to go through with the recordings pretty much normally. We had some safety measures, of course. We had only 1 or 2 guys at the studio at the same time, but otherwise we were able to go about it just as we have done before.
Yeah. But I think the whole album, because it's kind of it's stories about seclusion and reclusion and going to exile, it gained a new layer, a new meaning because of this whole thing. I think a lot of bands are doing something like this now. It was a kind of a coincidence that Moonspell released the album Hermitage at the same time, and I don't know if they had planned it in our part.
How did this band start to begin with? Why did you guys come together? Did you guys know each other beforehand? What was sort of like, how did all these guys get together to make this band?
It was this drunken idea.
Yeah, the best ones.
Have fun and play music. I think me and the other guitar player, Harry, we first started thinking about playing together. And I think it was a few occasions, drunken occasions, when we discussed about it, and pretty much I think it took maybe a year or something that we were able to get all the guys to play with us. And the idea was just to have fun, play some music, and have great parties. So
a therapy group.
Yeah,
so to say.
Yeah, get rid of those inhibitions, man. Yeah, get rid of those inhibitions. Let's play some music. Let's party. Maybe get laid, whatever.
Yeah. We've managed to party, but none of them they. We didn't really have any goals. I think we just kind of let's see where this thing takes us. The first idea was to play some sort of doom. It was more doom than what we do now, but it kind of evolved pretty quickly, and we didn't try to stop it. We just went along with it.
Yeah.
What's sort of like the area like where you guys are from? You say you're out there partying, playing music. What's the music scene like? What's just the culture like? What's your day-to-day you know, day-to-day life's like, you know, even when you're starting the band and then, you know, throughout the years, you know, being in this band, you know, growing up, you know, what's it like out there?
Well, Kotka, we are not in Kotka now, but where we are from and where this band was started, it's a metal town, a small industrial town on the shore of Baltic Sea, and we've kind of all grown up in the middle of metal culture. It kind of flourished during the 2000 and Omnium Gatherum, Total Devastation, Manitou, all kinds of great bands when we were kids, and we are not all the same age. We have an age difference. When I started earlier, Nico was watching our gigs, my band's gigs at the time, and but we've all been in the scene, and we were just talking about it a couple of days back, how fun it was all back then. We had huge parties. Everybody was invited at the training camps, training studios, and that sort of stuff. Now we don't have that anymore, and metal is not that pop anymore. Back then, in Finland, bands on official charts were metal. A lot of the bands were metal bands, and it sold a great deal. And now I don't think kids don't play that much rock and metal anymore.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that bad.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, there's still a lot of great shows, and we have, considering the size of the town, we have a great summer festival, and we have traditional rock bars and all that stuff that I think in some places in Finland, I think they're starting to shut down, but I think in our home, many of the guys from Insomnium, they live in Kotka now, and it's not just the bands, the crews, the light guys, the engineers, the tour managers. There are a lot of those guys who really know how this stuff works, how to get this stuff to people to listen, and that's a huge thing. If we were in the same sort of town, about 50,000 people, 50,000 people in some other country, I don't think we've ever had gotten this far.
Yeah. So you just have like people like that. There's people in your town that, you know how to do a different thing, and you guys all kind of come together to build something.
We try to help each other out, I'd say. Yeah. I've done some music videos for Omnium Gatherum, and Sami, who has toured the world with Insomnium and Omnium Gatherum, now he helps us, and we try to kind of take each other into account, and it's all, I think it's all good. If someone makes it, it's better for everybody. And
yeah. What's sort of like just the culture like in your hometown? You know, is it pretty diverse? Is there other types of music outside of metal that still has sort of a DIY sort of street level thing? Is there groups, people of color, different cultures in your hometown?
Well, Kotka used to have, it's a port town, huge port, and there were, when the seamen got to get on the shore, it was a mixed bag, but now they to do it anymore, they have to stay on the ships. It's not very, I don't think it's very kind of multicultural.
No,
in Kotka.
Yeah. I think it's, well, the people are nice and helpful and all that, but I think it's very introverted.
Yeah.
Town, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of a typical thing in Finland, I think. People are very warm once you get to know them, but the surface might be a bit hard.
Yeah.
At first, and of course it's a small town where people don't live very closely. I think the city center has gotten quieter during the last 10 years and that sort of stuff. But on the summertime, it's a buzz. Everybody, because the summer is short in here, so everybody tries to make the most of it, and people come out. And we have one of the biggest festivals in Finland, in Kotka. The whole city is kind of filled. Half of Finland is there, and everybody brings their body weight and start a fight and sing karaoke and that sort of stuff.
How far away is your hometown from like the next big city?
Big city.
What's the closest like big city you'd think it's close to? Whether it's in another, I don't got a map around here, so I don't know if like if the closest big city would be in another country or in Finland.
Yeah, actually, Helsinki and St. Petersburg are pretty much they're as far away.
It's in between.
Yeah. Pretty close to Russian border.
And how does your town differ from those big cities, though?
Well, I've been to St. Petersburg only once, so can't really compare. St. Petersburg is old. Kotka, not that old. None of the Finnish towns, only a few of the Finnish towns are really that old as the old Russian cities. Well, in Helsinki, there's over 10 times more people. They have a subway. There's no, in Kotka, there's basically no public transport. Only a few buses now and then, and it's hard to really it's a really small town compared to small towns in for example USA. But I think a lot of kind of good music they come from strange places. You have something just builds up. A few guys get together, and pretty soon there's like 20 guys, and they all do the same stuff, or maybe they do a bit different stuff, but they help each other out. And
because you got to do like a lot more when you're in a small town to get noticed outside the small town. You know, so so when you actually break out at a small town, like you have a lot of experience under your belt.
It's hard to kind of, at least nowadays. Back in the day, it was easier to book a gig venue, although they were kind of these small pizzerias or whatever. But you could book a gig if you wanted to. Nowadays, it's not that simple anymore. Even established bands can have difficulties getting to play, and from a small town, it's even more harder than.
Like in your part of Finland, like what's sort of like the societal the norms in society in regards to like what do people care about in regards to what's going on in Finland or what's going on in Europe? You know, what's really those like sort of hot button issues that make their way into your area?
I think it's the same in Finland as in most parts of the world. That well, maybe it's due to social media or well, I think there's a lot of things involved in there, but there's this certain kind of you can see the diversion. The old kind of social norms have been shattered. There are no tribes. People have kind of come together in a different way, and maybe there's not that much middle ground anymore. There are these opinions. It's kind of the divide maybe.
I think that's like going on everywhere. Like
I think the kind of that's the same in here as in every other place as well. Of course, the kind of we are on the border of Europe. and we have a pretty big neighbor. That kind of affects everything. I think a lot of people in Finland are not sure if we kind of have to be on European Union or not, or should we? Where should we? And that sort of stuff. Maybe those are the things, kind of that go around in here.
Having that big neighbor, how does that sort of influence the society of Finland?
Well, I think I think in a lot of ways, but it's kind of hard when you're to see all of that stuff when you're mainly probably politics. We don't even probably know all the things. We are just kind of beginning to understand how it affected us during the 70s, because all the really important things are classified and that sort of stuff. But of course, Russia is a really important kind of companion, the tourism, all that sort of stuff. We had the best time in Russia when we were on a mini tour there.
What do you like about Russia? Because, you know, over here in the States, we hear certain things about, you know, Russia, you know, about, you know, a lot of crazy shit. And then, you'll hear some cool things about their culture and everything, but we don't necessarily get to hear a lot about like what's cool in Russia. You know, well, how do you know, what's some of the fun things that you experience there?
Very cheap alcohol.
I bet, dude. Yeah.
I mean, the people were very nice and
they're warm.
They're very warm people. Yeah. And one thing that for me struck out in the live shows was when we were warming up to a way bigger band. If you do that in Finland, the people start wandering in right before the headliner starts. So they're like, who's these jack-offs, man? Like, I'm here to see so-and-so, man. Like, wrap it up. Come on. Get off the stage, you idiots.
Yeah, you're wasting my time.
Yeah, but that was not the case in Russia. I mean, the place was packed from, you know,
like they were there to see everybody. They were like, yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, and they sing to the songs, and we didn't have that stuff in Finland, so we were prepared to play for a few people, and there were like. Well, not 1,000, but not far away from 1,000.
Yeah, they're ready.
500. Well, yeah, a shitload of people. For this small band, it was kind of like, the fuck is going on here? Well, we on a train to St. Petersburg, from St. Petersburg to Moscow, we spent the whole trip on the restaurant car, and it's a long local who tried to hang with us, but his wife kept kind of like taking him back to his own place, and he tried to make us sing and offered us vodka, and that sort of thing doesn't happen in Finland.
And we drank all the beer from the restaurant car. Yeah. My God, we were drunk when we reached Moscow. It takes like maybe 4 or 5 hours, the whole train trip, and I think it felt like 15 minutes, and piss drunk, trying to survive in Moscow.
Smacked, just faded. Yeah. Yeah, being that like your hometown, like you said before, not necessarily multicultural. How do you sort of, connect with the rest of the world to sort of see what's going on? Starting past couple years, we've been in the middle of a huge, civil rights movement with like Black Lives Matter. Here in the States, we're going through a big thing that's bubbling right now, where it's Asian American hate. that was very much fueled by our previous president. How do you sort of like stay connected to sort of like these cultural issues that are going around the world and really understand them?
Well, social media is great in that sort of thing. I think people in Finland are pretty woken up about these sort of things.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot to do with. I think Finnish people are pretty educated. I'd say compared to a lot of other places, and the people, when you see stuff on internet, I think a lot of Finnish people, I can't say all of them, and most of them can maybe search a bit whether it is real or fake or whatever. I think the basic kind of knowledge on how the world works, I think, is in a better state here than in some parts of the world.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And but of course it's getting harder because
of course
it's hard to kind of know what's bullshit and what's not. And it's not getting easier. But hopefully the kids today, they kind of, when the social media is still pretty young thing, and we just have to kind of get used to it, but they've kind of born into it. So you have to kind of, maybe they're more smart about these sort of things, but just have to hope that this kind of, this bubbling will kind of eventually hopefully it runs its course and the world becomes a bit better, and then you don't have to have this sort of pressure all the time. It's kind of taxing, I think.
Yeah.
When it comes to you guys, like what subjects are important to you to where you put them in your music? These are like social issues, cultural issues. These are things that really sort of you need to talk about in your music. They need to be said. You want your listeners to really grasp onto. What are those things that that you find it easy, find it passionate to stand up against?
Well, I maybe it's the kind of to not lose all hope, although everything kind of sometimes everything seems to turn into shit. We kind of try to have a silver lining, although the stuff is dark, but it's kind of, we try to kind of embrace the darkness. It's in all of us. You cannot run from it. If you are true to yourself, then it's there, and everybody gets sad sometimes.
It's comforting to sort of embrace that, because then you can do something about it.
Yeah, it's okay to feel that way. Maybe that's kind of the thing that we are trying to put out there, and what's better than to kind of get to a metal gig and do it together, kind of have a connection with the crowd and see that we are all kind of in this together. Maybe that's the one main thing.
Yeah.
Just as a country, how does Finland sort of stick out in Europe? What's unique about Finland?
We have a lot of space.
Yeah. That is the biggest thing. We have pretty small number of people and a lot of space.
If you want to buy lumber, we have that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with some space, man. I love me some space.
Yeah, maybe that's the first thing, that silence. Yeah, you have to say nature, of course. There's a lot of untouched nature in here. You kind of get accustomed to it when you're living in here, but when you go abroad and come back, have a city vacation in some big city, then you kind of realize it all over again. Oh, yeah. Fuck, just looking down from an airplane, playing it kind of makes you go like little bit emotional.
Yeah, here in the States, it goes from the extremes. It's just like in places we have a shit ton of things and people and whatnot divided by a lot of land. Like, have you guys ever toured the U.S.?
No, hopefully someday. I visited there once, but it's a long time ago.
Touring, like, okay, you guys can tour Europe and like go boom, 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 boom. Everything's kind of like, I guess, like what, 4 to 5 hours, maybe even between each cities. Like in the States, if you were to do like a nationwide, there'll be times when you'll just be driving for a good like 10 hours and barely seeing anything, you know. It's just like a lot of space in between everything. If you're like on a bus or whatnot, you know, that's what, like, everybody that from other countries, like from Europe or whatever, that come to the States to tour, they always say the same thing. Like, yo, we can tour all of the UK in like 2 weeks, but like 2 weeks in the US is like driving forever, you know.
Lost you there for a bit.
Oh yeah.
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you now. But okay, kind of closing things up. Definitely like I love the new album. I already got my order in for the vinyl. Super excited to get it. I think my favorite song on the album is I'm gonna go with Pointless Tale. That had like a really like dope riff to it, and a really like, what's your final thoughts about this album? Now that it's done, now that it's out there, people are listening to it. So like, what's your final thoughts about about this new album?
Well, it's a cliche, but I think it's the best we've done. I think on this album we kind of figured out what's our thing, so to speak.
Yeah. I just have a kind of, because, well, none of us would have figured out that we would be in this position, or we would be on Napalm, and we would having this conversation with you. It's kind of a huge relief to see that this is a good album, because you kind of lose track when you have heard your own songs for like a couple of 100 times. It's impossible to say if they're good or not, and you kind of, it's a scary thing to have the first reviews coming in, and have you built yourself and totally, have you been in some sort of illusion, and it's crap, and you just couldn't see it yourself. But now when we can say that somebody else thinks that this is a good album too, it's just it feels really good. It's been a huge effort, and now we can kind of, we can't stop working. We have to work like more harder than before to keep it kind of afloat when we can't get on tours and that sort of stuff. But it just, I have this kind of light feeling. It just feels good.
With the reviews coming out, with the album, is there anything that you can like sort of pinpoint that people are saying that maybe you didn't sort of think about? What are your fans saying about it? Is there anything new or anything specific that they're saying?
Well, there have been so much praise that lot is covered. Do you know Pedro from AP Reacts?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. He's a guy from Canada, a very, very good guy. We did an interview with him, and he had a good idea. Maybe we'll do that to have some sort of. Maybe the record would be even better if it had more like short interludes or even more theatrical stuff in the middle.
Yeah,
I think he could be right. Maybe we tried to make one very short song on this album, but it just got bigger and bigger, and now it's like, what can you do?
For me personally, I'd like to maybe hear a song where maybe you have some like haunting like female vocals in the back. You know, I think that would be fresh.
Maybe we'll do that next time. And there has been talks about sähkökantele also, but we'll see. Maybe I'll learn how to play the what do you say? Melodic, yeah.
All right, fellas, it's been good talking with you. Really enjoy the new album. New album from Mariana's Rest is Fata Morgana. It's on Napalm Records. Go cop it. I already got my order in. Fellas, where can everybody go online to get more information about the band and the new album?
Well, you can steer to our website, marianasrest.com, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the best places to find
and
us.
on Napalm's website also.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There we are. Hook us up.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh of the Word podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh of the Word. Fresh of the Word theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Fresh of the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh of the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/freshoftheword. Follow Fresh of the Word on social media on Twitter at Fresh of the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh of the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh of the Word. For more information about Fresh of the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshofthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.